In this video, I'm going to go over all the settings of the Fitbit Charge 5 that are on the device itself. So to access the settings from your clock face, you'll need to swipe from the top to the bottom. And the first thing we have here is payments. So I have a video showing you how to set up the digital wallet. So you can check out that video here, but when you have that all set up, you can just swipe down to access your payments. So then you just tap here, and then you'll have to enter your digital PIN in order to unlock your digital wallet and use your payments. So go ahead and check that video out if you want to learn more about how to set up payments. Otherwise, you'll see here I just did the first little trick, is swiping from the left to the right gets you to the previous page. So from the clock face again, we will swipe down from the bottom to access the settings, the first of which is just a shortcut for the payments. So this is a quick setting mode. We have do not disturb mode. So right now it is off, which means that notifications will come through to the Fitbit Charge 5. If you do not want notifications to come on, you can tap on this, and then it will say do not disturb mode is on, and then you will stop receiving notifications. So that's a way to quickly turn on or off do not disturb mode. Then there's also a quick setting for the sleep mode. So right now it is off. If you turn it on, the screen will dim, the notifications will be disabled. So essentially do not disturb mode, even though it says it's off, sleep mode enables a do not disturb within the sleep mode itself. So that's a little bit confusing, but it's just because it allows you to only set one mode instead of having to set two. So sleep mode dims the screen, turns off notification, and it also prevents the screen from waking up if you turn over in the middle of the night, for example. So if you go to the next one, that's that feature. So Fitbit calls this screen wake. That's when you do the little wrist flip to look at your time. So if this is set to auto, it will turn on the screen, wake the screen when you raise your wrist. If you tap it once, it goes to manual, which means it will not turn on the screen when you raise your wrist, and you have to manually tap your display for it to turn on. The wording around that is a little bit confusing, so you might have to test that, but I think if you want the screen to turn on, you'll want it on auto. If you don't want it to turn on when you flip your wrist, then you'll put it on manual. So usually I like to have that on auto. And then here is a water lock feature. Now, your Fitbit is waterproof. It doesn't have any buttons or anything where water could actually get into the device easily. This is more if you're taking a shower or doing dishes or in the pool or something, or in the beach, ocean, and you don't want your display to be activated. Basically, it's kind of like a battery saving thing, because water could register as a tap on your screen and kind of waste battery when you're not actually using it. So it's kind of weird here. Water lock is off, so to tap it, you turn it on. So I'll tap here, and it says to lock, firmly double tap. So I firmly double tapped, now it's locked, and it says water locked, double tap to unlock. So if I try to swipe, it won't do anything. If I tap once, it won't do anything. So then if I wake the screen a little bit, it says to unlock, firmly double tap. So there you go. Now it is unlocked. So now we're out of the water lock setting. So we're back to our clock face. So I need to swipe back down to reveal these quick settings. And I'll swipe back up to the water lock. So you can see here, that's how the water lock feature works. Now finally, we swipe up again, we get to access the settings. So I'll go ahead and tap here. So just to give you an overview, we have some display settings, quiet modes, heart rate, heart zone notifications, vibrations, GPS, device info, and restart device. Now these things could change as the Charge 5 gets older and firmware is updated, but at least as of launch, this is the current settings options. So I'll start with the display settings here. We'll tap here. And we have a brightness setting. So right now for you, so you can see the screen really well, I have it on max brightness. I also recommend this max brightness setting when you're outside in direct sunlight. That's the best way to see your screen in direct sunlight, with the max brightness setting. But if you tap here, you can cycle through dim, normal, and max. Now, I can see a little bit of a difference, but not a whole bunch. So I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that there's also a ambient light sensor on the front of this device. And I have these bright studio lights, so you can't see it as well on the screen here. But like if you have the brightness on dim outside in bright sunlight, I think it could be a little bit harder to see. So just do note that. And you can change the settings as you need. It doesn't tell you that it affects the battery to have it on max brightness, but I assume it takes a little bit more battery, but not so much that they need to warn you about it, I guess. So if you want to just keep it at max, you probably can. Otherwise, go ahead and choose your desired setting there. So here we have the screen wake. I'm not really sure why you would need that here because you already had a quick setting for it, but it's basically the same thing. You have auto and manual here, so you're probably not gonna really need to change that because you can change that in the quick setting earlier. So here's the screen timeout, which is supposed to be the amount of time before the screen kind of dims or turns off. So right now I have it set to long. If I tap, there's a default, which is only a few seconds. So for these videos, it gets very annoying if I keep it on default because it'll just keep doing that every time. If you tap there and it says increasing the screen time reduces the battery life, so you have to say got it. Unfortunately, every time you change that, you have to say got it. That's a little bit annoying because I got it, but anyway. So you have the default, which was before this, medium, and then long, which again, you have to say got it. So those are your three options there. And the next option is always on display, which they tell you impacts battery. So I'll tap here. So we have a global setting where you can enable or disable the always on display. So right now it's enabled. If I want to disable it, I just tap it there. But I'll go ahead and re-enable it there. And here it says off hours, sleep schedule active, and intervals. Let me see. I think I can tap. Nope. Okay. Ah, I guess that registered as a double tap, so sorry about that. Alright, back to always on display. So it says off hours, sleep schedule active. I think that means if you have sleep mode on, then it's going to turn off the always on display during sleep schedule. That might be because I still have sleep mode on? No. Okay. Back to this. So, I don't think you can change. Oh, wow. So I am still getting used to all this. The double tap is working to take me back to the clock face, which is not what I want right now. But anyway, so it looks like right now I can't tap on these off hours. I assume that's related to the sleep schedule. So maybe it's only because of the sleep schedule. So let me go over here. So to get back one screen, you just swipe from left to right. So I'll go ahead and get out of these display settings and I'll go into the quiet modes and we'll see if that changes anything. So the quiet modes are do not disturb. Again, there was a quick setting for do not disturb previously, so you probably won't ever need to change it here, but if you do, it's there. Then there's sleep mode, which I'll get into in a moment, and then exercise focus. So exercise focus means when this is enabled, once you start an exercise, do not disturb will be turned on so that you don't receive any notifications during your exercise and you can focus on your exercise instead of your notifications. So if that's something that you are interested in, you can enable that here. I like to receive notifications while I work out, so I will keep that off. And then sleep mode, I'll go back to and show you the options here. So again, this sleep mode on or off you can access in the quick settings, so you probably won't need to access it here. But if I enable that here right now, you can see that I can enable or disable a sleep mode schedule. So if I turn that off, I can still edit the schedule. So this basically means you can automatically turn sleep mode on or off based on a consistent interval. So if you go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, or you just want to have some times where you automatically don't receive notifications, then you can set that up here. So you can tap on interval, and then you can change the start and end time. So let's say I want to start at 9:30. I can just scroll there and choose PM. And let's say I want to end at 7:30. You can tap and scroll, tap, and AM. So now sleep mode will automatically enable itself at 9:30 p.m. and disable itself at 7:30 a.m. Then to get out of that, we have to do this swiping from left to right. Now if you wanted to turn that off, like on the weekends or something, you would have to come in here and turn off the schedule. And then you would have to manually enable and disable sleep mode at whatever time you would like. So if I turn off the schedule and I turn off sleep mode and I swipe back and I swipe back once more and I swipe up back to display settings, I'm curious if the always on display says anything different right now. So I'm going to tap here. Alright, so now that is the case. So if you have sleep mode on, you can't change these off hours, but if you don't use sleep mode, you can enable or disable the always on display off hours. So it says always on display turns off during the hours you set. So say got it. And says you can turn this on to save battery. So then you can change your interval. Right now it's default to 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's the same type of thing as the other one. So if you're okay with that, you can just keep it. And you don't even have to swipe to change, but if you want to change, you just tap on it and change as I did before. So I'll go ahead and swipe to get out of that. And then I can just leave that on because it seems like the sleep mode supersedes it. So I'm going to go back to quiet modes and then sleep mode, and I'm going to re-enable that schedule because I want the additional two things that sleep mode adds, which is the turning off the screen wake when you flip your wrist, because I am a tosser and turner and I don't like when my wrist wakes up or my display wakes up when I toss and turn in bed at night. And I also do like that I can keep the brightness of my screen at max during the day and then have it automatically change that brightness to dim at night. So those are the display settings and quiet modes. So now we have a simple heart rate on or off. So right now I have it enabled, but if you don't want heart rate for whatever reason, you can disable it like that. Just having it in that state is disabled. So if we look on the back of the device and I cover up my finger, you shouldn't see any green light going, and I don't see anything, so that's good. It is working. It's working to be disabled. Now if I tap to enable it and I cover this with my finger for a few seconds, and it should come back on at some point. Maybe it's too smart at the moment. Well, anyway, I trust that it is enabled, and once I put it back on my wrist, it will start reading my heart rate again. If you're having issue with heart rate working, you can restart or reboot your device. I have a video showing you how to do that. That usually helps. If those things don't work, you'd have to contact customer support because something would probably not be going right in that case. Alright, so here we have a global heart rate zone notification enable or disable. So this is during a exercise. If you want your Fitbit to vibrate your wrist when you move from one heart rate zone to another, so like fat burning to cardio, or cardio to peak, or cardio back down to fat burn, if this is enabled, it will do that buzzing. I personally don't really like or need to hear that buzzing, so I disable this globally. You can also disable this globally and enable it for specific exercises in the exercise app. Alright, here we have vibrations. We have either strong, or if we tap, we can go to normal. So normal, and then strong is a little bit stronger. And when it's on my wrist, I do feel a little bit of a difference, and I do kind of prefer the strong, but that's your personal choice there. And then GPS settings. So if we tap here, it says GPS settings. So we have built-in, which impacts battery, phone, and dynamic. So what this means is, if it's set to built-in GPS, if you start an exercise with GPS enabled, it will use the built-in GPS, which takes up a fair amount of battery. If you don't like that for some reason, you can have it use your phone's battery every time, so it does not ever use the built-in GPS. Or if you're wanting to save some battery, you can choose this also. Or you can just leave it on dynamic, which says if your phone is in range of your Fitbit, use your phone's GPS. Otherwise, use the built-in GPS. So if you go for a run without your phone and it's on dynamic, it will look for your phone, it won't find it, so it will use the Fitbit's built-in GPS. If you don't like that, then you can choose to use the built-in GPS always, or if you're going to have a phone with you, you can choose it to always use your phone anyway. And then you can also reset to defaults, which default is just dynamic. And then GPS info, not much here, it just says learn more about these settings at Fitbit.com. So hopefully I've explained them in a way for you to understand what's going on there. I'm just going to leave mine at built-in because I don't mind using the battery, and I want to test the built-in GPS of the Charge 5 anyway. So I'll go ahead and swipe to get out of this. And moving on, we have some device info. So if we tap here, we have system info, regulatory info, and then clear user data. So only use the clear user data if you need to return your device, or you're giving your device away, so you want to get rid of all the personal information that's stored on the Fitbit Charge 5 itself. You can also use that as a last resort for troubleshooting if no other troubleshooting methods worked. But they kind of hide that behind here because they don't want you to accidentally push this if you don't know what you're doing. Regulatory info you probably don't care about. It's more just stuff Fitbit is legally required to include on their devices. And then system info can be helpful for warranties. It shows your activation date, and you can also see the version number of your Fitbit Charge 5, which can help customer support or yourself if you need to know that information. So that's in the device info. I'll swipe back. And the last one is to restart your device. This is basically if you're just having some issue, like it's not syncing or things like that, or maybe the heart rate isn't working and it should be, you can tap here and it says restart device. This will restart your device. No data will be lost. So you can either tap to restart. I do this in another video if you want to see what that exactly looks like. In this video, I'll go ahead and just say cancel because it's not really necessary at this point, but it only takes a few seconds, so, and it doesn't hurt anything. But I'll go ahead and say cancel. So yeah, that is it for all of the settings that are at least currently available at launch. Another little quick tip, if you got all the way here, if you wanted to quickly back to your clock face, all you have to do is double tap, and you actually only have to lightly double tap, and there you go right back to your clock face. So it is kind of nice. You don't have to use buttons. I kind of like the buttons sometimes because it gives you a little bit more access to shortcuts or options like that, but I think the user interface here is pretty sleek and it seems to work pretty well. And as long as you're deliberate, all of these swiping and double tapping to get back to clock faces seems to work well. So I hope this helped you figure out all of these settings on your Fitbit Charge 5. If it did, please give it a thumbs up down below and consider subscribing if you want to see more Fitbit Charge 5 how-to videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.